when they tank their ship, you have to let them tank their ship. And that's, I think, the hardest part as a parent is sitting there and watching that, knowing that you can't do anything to go out there and help them. I mean, we can talk about the fist fights you almost got into with other parents with the kicking and screaming.
The fist fights make me look like this, like guy out there, like MMA parent in the soccer field. Welcome back to another episode of The Abundant Life. I'm your host, Charles Todd, and Ms. Angela Todd, co-host.
Doodly-doo.
Well, there we go. Starting with the peanut gallery already.
I got something to say about something.
Never ending.
Well, what are we talking about today, Darlene?
We're talking about how to spot and empower extraordinary gifts in children.
How to spot and empower extraordinary gifts. Wake up, people. They're everywhere. Every child has a gift and a talent that is in them. Sometimes you got to reel it out, but even the most difficult child is gifted. So you just have to uncover it, open the eyes.
This could almost be like a part 2 of a previous podcast that we did when we were talking about school sucks. Basically, we talked about grade school all the way to college, and we just didn't talk about the problems, but we talked about solutions on how families and individuals can basically navigate the school systems, make sure they're in the right place to get the most out of school, and then also out of college, how to pick the right school, how to know if even college is even right for you. This is kind of like the next step, that if like your kid has something that you don't even want to send them to school, like they're a professional athlete, like what we did with our daughter, we basically at age 8 or whatever, extracted her from the school system, had in a charter school for a couple of years, and then put her into homeschool by a private tutor for a few hours a week only, but the rest of the time they're working on that, whatever that prodigy that they may be in. So this is kind of like, if you see something in your child, or if you're even like not even sure, but you spot like something, then this is where you could go. We're going to give you some helpful hints, some tips, some steps on what to do.
Right. Let's go.
So it's like not even being in the school system, which I love being in the school system. As you might have learned last time. If you're a rebel,
we love you. We want to hear from you. And how are you doing things differently? Going against the grain. I think that's the key here, is how do you go against the grain and be successful? Because so many people, when we were just having Paris on her pro path, oh, it's never going to work. Oh, you need to send her to college. Oh, this isn't going to happen. Oh, that's not going to happen. I mean, you get it everywhere. And you even get it from your own family members who have their own ideologies of what they think you or your children or whoever should be doing with their life. And so sometimes you just got to stay in your lane, stay in your lane, stay in your lane.
Well, that's good information already. Just like ignoring the negative talk going on around you. And one of the things we'd hear, you're not letting her be a normal kid. It's like, she doesn't want to be a normal adult, and I don't want her to be a normal adult either. So you have to choose a different path. One of the things that we talked about last time was we pulled up a chart of all the billionaires that had dropped out of college, out of school.
Right.
And those were some of the most, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Michael Dell, all these people who never even went,
Ellison,
never went through college or never went to college because they knew that wasn't the right path for them, or they found no value in that education. Once again, we're not coming against and condemning the education system. That's the right place for some people, and everybody has to make their own choices. Everybody has their own situations. Everybody has to pick what's going to work for them, their family, their individual, their kid, whatever it may be. We're just trying to give you tips that you can then take, and then you can utilize it to then make your own unique situation, your own child successful.
Right. You have options, people. We're just here to explore the options that are out there for your children. It's about grooming the next generation, not indoctrinating them with wicked and reversed ideologies that don't line up with, having values. You have to have moral values, and you have to raise the next generation to have those moral values. They're in every single person knows right and wrong.
Yep.
You learn the wrong. You don't have to be taught how to do wrong things and automatically do it. But there is some indoctrination that is making good bad and bad good, evil good, good evil. It's biblical. Read it. The end times. I don't want to go there, but
we're going there.
You have to know your value. You have to know your worth, and you have to know who you are, and can continue to stay in your lane. Period. Whoever that is for you, just be that. Just be who you are. But you have to know you're right and wrong, and you have to know what's right.
Well, one thing I said was spotting those extraordinary values, because sometimes I think what society does now is that they see something different in a kid, and it's like, let's put him on medication. He's got a problem. He's got something wrong. Let's just dope him up. Put him in the corner. He's weird. Well, he's gonna be weirder on drugs. It's like, are you even kidding me?
Right.
So it's like, what is that's different that you think is weird that actually makes him extraordinary, that makes him different, that gives him these special values. So let's take a look at some kids. We pulled up some clips of some kids that are really extraordinary. Let's run the first one, Christian, if you will, on the kid that plays the piano.
Check out this kid. The Bumblebee song? Can you play that?
Oh my gosh, how old is that
kid? Steve Harvey, he's like, what? I mean, check this kid out. He's going to town.
Yeah.
All right, show the next one, Christian. These are acrobats. These kids are 7 and 10 years old. Like, I never even thought about acrobats. I was searching for these things on YouTube. Check out these kids. Talk about extraordinary gifts. Where's the safety net? There is none.
I think children have no fear.
They're just going for it.
So cute.
It goes on. They do a bunch of stuff. Let's go ahead and skip to the third one, Christian. Let's go to the scooter rider. This isn't just a scooter rider. This kid is 8 years old. He is the youngest professional scooter rider that there is. So he's already found his profession at age 8.
Right.
Just check him out. This is obviously, he's just set up on a stage. So
whoa.
This lady, she's like, yeah, he's doing flips, man.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow.
Okay, cool. I just wanted just a couple things, just showing some different things, because, I think a lot about sports, but like sometimes I don't think about like singing or pianos or playing an instrument or acrobats or that type of stuff. So there's all these different types of things. It's just, identifying what it is that your kid had. I mean, last time when we were talking about the school, there was the kid that was 2 years old that was like a mathematic genius. He was doing all these things that we can even do, And our whole point with that is that, do you really need all that 12 years of school and then college to be able to do math? The kid's doing that too. He hasn't even had any school system yet.
Right.
So it's the same thing. What his dad said was that when he would be watching something with numbers, he'd be like fascinated. And when they would turn it off, he'd start crying. So it's like they figured that out, that he liked numbers just through that. So it's very simple things. Like, how do I find out? Sometimes just paying attention. It's like he cried, he didn't cry. It's pretty simple. But when you see a kid that's 8 years old that's professional at something, if he's professional, it means what? You're getting paid. Kid making money, making dollars. So they've already figured something out for him, and whether or not he continues to skate the whole time, that it will lead into other things and other opportunities that athletes may have. So, but he's already on this path, on this career path of doing what he loves to do.
Makes me think of like those X Games champions. Those guys are so nuts. And I can't even imagine, like, if you're a parent, and I know we had one of our friends where his kid was like even wrestling. It's like, oh gosh, or the parents get scared of, their kids getting hurt. Like the acrobatics, if I saw like Paris swinging on a vine outside, like going nuts, I would probably be like, you need to get down from there because that's dangerous. But allowing them to fall, that's one thing. right? Allowing them to make their mistakes. How do you do that as a parent, watching your child, break something? That's gotta hurt. And just not having that fear, like my child is doing something dangerous and not nurturing that. So how would you recommend combating that?
Well, it's like anything. You have to use some wisdom in it, but at the same point, you can't be so sheltering that you don't allow them to challenge. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about is, getting them in competition to allow them to be challenged.
Right.
So that's how you get better. When you challenge yourself against somebody who's better than you, that's what's going to help make you better. If you're never challenged, then you can't grow. It's like we talk about development versus growth. Growth comes organically, like you just feed a kid and they grow. But development takes pressure. Just like if you're going to make your muscle bigger, you have to lift weights. You have to push that muscle. You have to put resistance on it. You have to put strain. It actually has to tear the muscle fibers down, and then it rebuilds stronger. So competition or these type of situations that you may put them in that may be fearful for them and for you, it's just part of the development.
Even in tennis, I couldn't even watch. We couldn't sit together. That was one thing. He had other ideals, and so did I. I just wanted to be the best cheerleader, and you were her coach and mentor and everything else. So, but when they tank their ship, you have to let them tank their ship. And that's, I think, the hardest part as a parent is sitting there and watching that, knowing that you can't do anything to go out there and help them. I mean, we can talk about the fist fights you almost got into with other parents, with the kicking and screaming.
The fist fights make me look like this, like guy out there, like MMA parent in the soccer field tearing everybody up or something.
Well, and I will say, as when you do have gifted children and they are in professional sports, competing at a high level like that, like Paris had a lot of haters, and we had families that didn't like us. So one of the examples is we go to a tournament, we show up at a tournament, and I've probably mentioned this before, but someone forged our name and email and withdrew her from the tournament. So we show up to play and she's withdrawn. And so it was like, okay, what kind of nonsense is this? Aside from all the other social media bullying and hating and all that other stuff, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. So how do you overcome those things as a parent?
Well, we start off talking about really how to identify the gift.
Right.
So the next one is, okay, what do we do? What do we help to do that? Is you got to get some support.
Right.
Really, you've got to get around, if it's not your family that's going to help you in that, then you've got to get around other like-minded people that are going to support you in that as well too. You need a community, you need consultants, you need help, you need encouragers, the people that are going to be able to visualize what you're visualizing for the dream and to be there to support that. And you're going to have to shut the door on the people who don't understand that. Right. The ones say, oh, why aren't you just raising a normal child? Or why? Those are the people you don't need to be talking to about your dreams. Right. Doesn't mean that you don't talk to them anymore. You shut your family out. It just means you don't share certain things with certain people that are close to you that could potentially give you negative feedback.
Yeah,
and the negative feedback is like, it can come from a place, but I care. I just want the best for them. But they just see things from a different way. So you just don't need to hear the negativity, whatever those words may be. You need to keep those things out, because life and death comes from the power of the tongue. So you've got to be selective of what power of the tongue you're going to be listening to.
Yeah, not being moved. I think one of the greatest films was the King Richard with Serena and Venus.
Mm-hmm. Williams sisters.
Yeah, just not being moved by, even at the very end was the Nike deal, not even just the millions that they were offering, knowing that there was just something better on the other side for Venus. And sure enough, it was. So.
Hanging around people who are going to help you, and also I would say people who are even bigger thinkers than you are. People who are going to basically be your mentors or encourage you to get to that higher level. Talked about challenging through competition. So, how do you know where the competitions are for your kid or whatever? Well, one thing we constantly talk about, internet. There's abundant information on internet, getting involved in different types of community, whether it's Nextdoor or some of these other type of things. There's apps, there's all kinds of resources out there
There's
for
sports
you,
organizations. There's the boys and girls clubs that have after-school programs that usually have something attached and affiliated with, external sporting things. Pickleball is exploding all over the world right now. There is somehow, a pickleball tournament going on locally, nationally. Now it's becoming international. If you're trying to figure out, keeping your kids active, pickleball is a great one.
Internet's out there for everybody to use, so Don't ever make excuses. Well, I don't know this, I don't know that. You can go to the internet and find anything you need to find to be able to plug your kids in. So let's just talk about the competitions in general. So how do you handle competitions with your kids? How do you if you were to analyze how we handled competition with our daughter, what would you say the things that we did good and the things that we did wrong?
I think what we did good was...
Our daughter probably completely disagrees with what we're getting ready to say, but that's another subject. She's not here, so...
Encouraging them not to quit, because losing is the hardest. I think for her, at one point she was like, I hate tennis. Well, she didn't hate tennis. She just hated losing.
Yeah.
And how do you overcome losing, especially when you're paying 5 to 6 digits for them to go and to make 3 digits? It's crazy. It's pressure on the family. It's pressure on the kid to perform. It's pressure, even with their peers, and even when you have older competitors that are coming in from Russia and other countries, that this is their only survival. And, it's different if you're trying to survive from another country than it is, competing at a professional level. So you have all this external pressure around there, which could detour you. She quit 3 times. How did we deal with that? We just kept encouraging her. And I would say the number one thing was just praying through this. Even though your child's going to go through all of these different things in life, they're going to have pressure here, they're going to get bullied there, they're going to get opposition here. At the end of the day, you have to encourage them to stay on their path. And we even had a little sign in her room that said, no quits, or something like that. We encouraged her that she is a champion, and continually speaking over her every day. You are a champion. Go and train like one. Go and compete like one. It's going to change. It will turn when they keep competing and they're staying in their lane. So I think, how did we do it? We prayed. We kept speaking encouraging words over her. Go train harder. Do more. Even with her coaches, they would say, Miss, Nash was so great. There is a girl in Russia training right now at the bottom of a vacant pool that's looking to beat you. You have to step up, and you have to train, and you have to get your mind there and focused. And I think just encouraging them that they are doing the right thing, and it will turn around for them. So what would you say to that?
Okay, so what I got from that is pray and encourage.
Pray and encourage.
So encourage most important. Okay, now answer the second part of my question. That's what you said. What do we do right? So I'm assuming you said we prayed right and we encouraged right.
What do we do wrong?
Yeah, what do we do wrong? Because we always want to learn from. It's oh, great, yeah, you did this great, and you're a great businessman.
Getting upset after a loss. I think that's wrong.
Why?
It just adds more pressure, I think, and then they feel that. And so that's an energy, right? You're projecting an energy that you are disappointed in their performance. Therefore, they start to go into a tailspin of depression, or they want to quit because now they can't meet the expectation.
Okay.
So I think that. And that's tough to do, is separate your emotions, especially when your kid wants to tank. They want to tank their ship. How do you emotionally detach from that? It's tough.
Okay. So looking back on it and an experience that you have now, how would you recommend our listeners to handle losing from a better perspective? Where do you draw the line between getting upset and not doing anything and going all the way from being upset to it's okay.
Everyone deserves a trophy.
That whole thing. And, that's something that my mom experienced with Paris, never being around her through all of her tennis years, really. And then at a professional tournament that she's at, she lost. My mom tried to go and to comfort her, and Paris told her to get out.
Right.
I told her, I was like, she's like, oh my gosh, she just told me as I was trying to just be compassionate. It's like, it's the last thing you do. One thing that I have learned is that through the loss is just give them the space.
Right.
And what I told my mom, I was like, you don't go to them after a loss, you wait for them to come to you. Because when they cooled off and they've gone through it, she'll come back. One thing I've learned with Paris is that she gets over losses quicker than I do.
Right.
I might not show that I'm still going through the loss, but she's like we're out to dinner, she's fine and talking about this and that. I'm like, I'm pissed off still. I don't even want to talk right now, And so she's able to process through that.
Switch.
But at the same point is like not babying them so much. Like you say, oh, it's just participation and it's okay to lose. Because it's not okay to lose. And to your point, what you were saying earlier is that they don't hate what they're doing. They hate losing. And it's the same thing about fear, is that people say, well, I'm afraid of airplanes. They're not afraid of the airplane. How are you going to be afraid of an airplane? You're afraid of dying on an airplane is what you're afraid of, not the airplane. You're not afraid of the elevator. You're afraid of dying on the elevator is what you're fear from. So it's the same thing. You don't hate tennis. You hate losing. And so losing is what people don't like. And sometimes those losing can be some of the best lessons. So to answer my question I just asked you is, how do you help the player then to navigate through the loss? And what I would recommend is wait and let them come to you and let them ask you those type of questions. But what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And they'll give you the opportunity to then speak and give your opinion on how to do that. And once again, it needs to come from the viewpoint of speaking the positive things, reminding them of the good things that they did, and then the things that you saw that were the weaknesses, like, well, if you wouldn't have hit all those balls out, you would have won. Yeah, that's
duh.
That's like very obvious.
Right.
It's like, I think that if you changed your grip this way, or maybe instead of, give yourself a little more margin of error, that would probably improve your percentage of those balls you're making versus those ones that you're making in air. Giving constructive criticism on how to do that. And that's not always easy.
And practicing. And like you said, the experience, more competitions and more practice so that you can work on those things. Which brings me up to, Christian, pull up that clip of what not to do if you're a parent at 2:40, number 4. Watch this.
Breaks this guy's Xbox games as he is sick of him lying around the house.
Those are all of his Xbox games.
Why are you doing? Are you gonna mow him over? Yeah, I'm gonna mow him over. That way you get out of your room for a little while. Maybe you get a job. You've been out of school 3 months now. Amy, it's gonna be my job. Never gonna quit.
Oh my gosh. Trying to get some of his games. What's he gonna do? Oh my God.
Because he said, okay, what not to do maybe if you're a parent. But the point is, look at him.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, that one's done. The point is, if your child is not getting out of the room and being productive and doing some things, then that was his parenting technique. You're not getting a job. You're just stuck in your room, not doing anything. Now, there's one thing of not progressing in your life to do something. If that kid was using those games to create his own video game, I think there's a lot of parents that would say, I don't know why my kid is locking themselves in a room for so long, but yet they're the founder of Blizzard games, or do you know what I mean? Or something like that. So you have to have a really cool balance of knowing how to make a point with your child and then encouraging them in the gift that they have. The other one is do the kicking and screaming, number 5.
Will Ferrell?
Yes.
Oh, this ought to be good. Actually, kind of agree with some of these techniques a little bit.
You gotta pummel them at all costs. I want you to play dirty if you have to, but don't get caught.
What was that?
I thought I had the shot.
You thought? You're thinking like a crazy person. Grab some bench. You loser! Loser! Why don't you take a lap?
Okay, that's good. That's what you don't want to do if your child has a really bad game, is just, you're a loser. which is, it's too easy. It's too easy to take out your megaphone and project, because you could probably never do what they were doing on the court, which brings me to the point of one time that you were in a tournament and everything you were telling Paris to do in a tournament, when she watched you do a tournament, she was telling you to fix the things and you were doing all the wrong things in your own tournament.
Well, that's why our coach had me play.
Right.
So that I could go through the experience. And then after that, I was like, all of a sudden I had this compassion. I was like, okay, I'm going to change up the way that I'm actually fathering and coaching because of that. Because it is like, sometimes it's just in competition, different parts of your brain just check out, Right. So being able to navigate through that from a parent on, being able to relate to some of those type of things is very important.
So that's one of the ways that you could help your children, is to actually compete in a like sport and have them watch you and give you some critiques on how to improve your game, and then back and forth and find ways to do those in competition.
Yeah. I think the one thing though that I'd like to get out of this last point here is, if you're emotional about, like I said, it took me longer to get over the loss than it did Paris.
Right.
If you're still emotional about the situation or the loss, keep your mouth shut. Period. Till you get your act together. And that might be tomorrow.
Right.
It might be a while, but don't be talking emotional. Just like, you don't ever want to make business decisions from an emotional perspective. You want to make it from a logical perspective. So keep your emotions out of it. You got to do the same thing if you're really going to do a good job of helping your child. And it's tough, when you're dealing with family members, it's always tougher. That's why sometimes I think even receiving the coaching or the constructive criticism, whatever, is even a little harder for the other individuals. Well, too, it can be a little bit challenging.
Well, I think that's where good coaching comes in, though.
Yeah, it's a combination of that. Sometimes parents aren't always going to have the opportunity to have, the different types of coaches and other people around them.
Right.
So you may be all those roles. You may be, the voice teacher, you may be the instrument teacher, whatever musicians have. So you may be filling all those roles. So it's a matter of, just keep your emotions out of as much as you can.
That's a good one. Detach. Or do the loving thing. Speak the loving thing. And if you can't, then just remove yourself. Just go cool down. Yeah. And I think if you can just give it some time to cool down, like you said, Paris just gets over it really quickly and then she's on to the next one. But that's years of competing. She knows how to flip that switch,
And those things never really change, I don't think. Like, I was having a conversation with a parent about, well, God, how long do you have to keep parenting? And I think that really
that's like, how long are they going to be on the payroll?
It's
forever.
Seasons. And yeah, it's like my parents still parent me,
Right.
They're still parents. I think there's just different seasons. Like, you're doing certain things in those different seasons, but there's a lot of things that are going to be the same in the seasons, like the encouragement.
Right.
You're going to always, I'm encouraging Paris right now in something of what I think that she needs to be doing. And I don't think that's really where she's going with it, but I'm still giving her saying, here's some reasons why I think that this is important, and trying to give her. At the end of the day, if she doesn't end up doing it, it doesn't bother me. So, it's her career. And like I said, I might be wrong. So maybe where she's going might be right. I may be right though. At the end of the day, like I said, she's got to make the choices, and we both got to be okay with it. If she chooses to do something that I don't think is right, I'm okay with it.
I'm not, because I'm always right.
The mother.
And I'll always ask her. I'm always right. And there goes the argument, right? Because I'm staring into a mirror. But anyway, we have different ideals on who's always right. But I'm always right. I think as the parents you are. But I also think that you have to raise your children with respect of who the parents are. Like, you have to respect your parents in order to be able to receive from them direction, even in your old age. There has to be a level of respect, which starts early in the home.
Yeah. Well, and that's like anything. It's setting the foundation for a child so that if they do go to school and they hear that, hey, you know what? If you wake up today and the wind blows your skirt that way and you think you want to put a pair of pants on and put one of these on instead and call yourself a different name, that's okay. They're going to know that ain't right. You know, but you have to establish those foundations early. So yeah, honor and respect are something that should be taught at a very early age.
Spank or don't spank.
Well, and at the same point, it's like, even my parents tell me something now that I don't agree with. That doesn't mean I don't still honor and respect them, even though it's challenging sometimes. Right. You know, and regardless of your age or where you're at, a lot of times you still think that you're right. You know, so you've got to still learn. Well,
especially teenagers, they're always right, right? They always know more than the parents in their mind.
That's part of the journey through the seasons.
Right.
You know, and I think as you get older, then you start to kind of relate a little bit more to your parents probably and understand, because you've learned some of the things the hard way. Right. And you've learned some of the good things that they said that you did that you thought you probably shouldn't do, but you did anyway, but it ended up working out for you. So it's like, hey, maybe I should listen to that dude. So let's move on. Let's talk about how to deal with drama. You talked a little bit about it, about, pairs being pulled out of tournaments by people. You mentioned the word bullying, which we kind of have a little bit of different opinion based on that. And I understand that today that some of the things have maybe gotten out of hand, or maybe it's because they're just publicized through social media or the news and they seem to be bigger than they really are. But for me, raising up being bullied is just part of my education. Getting your ass kicked, I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from getting my ass kicked by somebody older than me because I was flapping my mouth. And getting some knots on my head and a black eye and a tooth busted out and a bloody nose. I learned a lot through that experience.
Holy cow.
You don't talk back to dudes and be disrespectful to them.
Right.
Unless you have a really good reason to be. And I didn't have anyone but just being a cocky little jackass.
Weapons.
And I paid the price.
Right. But now you can get shot for acting out that way. So just zip it, man.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think that's obviously getting carried away.
Well, I was bullied, and then I became a bully because I was bullied. And I was in high school, and I was going through a mall. Anyway, I got bullied by these girls, and oh my gosh, I was crapped my pants because they were these Latino badass girls with buzz cuts. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going down right now. My dad had dropped me off at the mall. Anyway, ironically, later, I was at a party, and this girl befriended me. She was this great girl, and then those other girls that bullied me in the mall were there at the party, and this chick she was this badass little girl. She's like, what? So she was like, those girls tried to bully you? So she brought me over there, and she was yelling at the girls, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. There was power in what she was doing. So I was like, okay, so
this is Mexican gangbang.
This is Mexican gangbanger.
Holy cow!
I grew up in Anaheim. Chevy Chase was the street behind me. It was the biggest drug dealing thing in all of.
You come from the hood.
I come from the Latino hood. Órale pues. So yeah, it was. My dad had to petition for me not.
Jennifer Lopez. Was she?
Jenny on the Block was a different era.
That wasn't your.
That was not my gig. Okay. I was Angela on the Block.
Okay.
Not Cell Block H, but I was Cell Block Arlington in Anaheim. Anyway, I don't even remember what I was talking about because.
Sorry, I'm learning something new about you today. I was I'm married a gangster.
Yeah, getting bullied. So my dad had a petition for me not to go to the local school, which thank God my dad's my hero. I love my dad. War vet. But, raised me when I was 13, but I respected my dad. And because my dad I loved my dad, we had this, he was great and he would rough me up. Like you were saying, just growing up in the home, my dad treated me like a boy. We would wrestle and fight, and he taught me how to fight and to stick up for myself and things like that. So anyway, after I got bullied, then I was like, okay, well, I found power in it. So then I started to bully, and, I I got in fights, and that's what I would do. And then in college, I was fighting girls. I was in bar fights. It was like, okay, who was directing me at that time? Like, I needed a mentor, honestly, until I got saved, hallelujah. And then I was like, oh my God, I am so sorry for the ones who hurt me and I hurt. And anyway, you go through this whole other thing. But there's no good thing in bullying at all whatsoever, either being bullied or bullying someone. And I know you're saying that you could straighten up and you can learn a lot from that, but in the end, nobody wins. Nobody wins in bullying.
So, okay. Well, I won some respect.
Here we go.
Through my ass
maybe you have a moment of empowerment, but then what is it? Where is that leading you?
I understand. So it could be like, say, well, I learned a lot from fire because I got my hand burnt off. I got a
you could have
20-degree burn.
Any of that.
Yeah, so I get that. So okay, so we always try to give a solution. So if parents are dealing with what they feel like is a wrong bullying, like it's gone too far. How do they deal with that? How does a parent deal with if their kid is being bullied?
Well, I think we have some bullying solutions. Do you have number 6? Pull out some bullying solutions.
All right, let's get some answers here.
Yeah.
I need somebody to tell me how to do this because
God,
I'm not quite
help
sure.
us.
Good thing we got some help here.
You can call him Bud, and he's fallen under the influence of cyberbullying. Let's take the gander.
Eat my shorts, loser.
One way you can deal with these rancid monster humans is by telling them to talk to the hand. Looks like the only thing he'll be eating is dinner.
All right, looks like that's a wrap. And remember, kids, stay swaggy and bulldoze bullying.
What's so great about that is that, so these kids have obviously been bullied, and what they did was they exploited it. They made their own videos, super quirky, funny, and gave tips to other kids on how to bully. They're probably monetizing that channel, which is how many millions of views are they getting? Do you know what I mean? I mean, so make lemonade. If there's lemons happening, make lemonade. Exploit it. Like what they're doing is they're having some fun with it. They're not taking it too personal. They're trying to educate other people through it. And I know there's a lot of after-school programs that are, helping kids that are going and experiencing through that. So I would say, try to figure out how to make some lemonade.
Well, that's a good point. So obviously, if it's at a dangerous level, then you need to let authorities know or something.
Absolutely.
But
you have to tell somebody.
What I just got out of what you just said is that if it's not at that, though, then how do you just make it lighter? Because here's my point I'm trying to make, that I think through the social media, through the news or whatever, we make it a bigger deal than it potentially may be, when it can just be some minor words just going back and forth, kids. Whatever. So so how the parent needs to maybe monitor the situation, make a decision on how they're going to handle it. Like I said, if it's really bad, then let somebody know. If it's not, if you can deal with it, then just maybe make it so it's not such a big deal, and maybe even make a little bit of fun about it, because society in general is making bullying too big. It's like we were talking about today.
Every case is different.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So the parent has to really analyze the situation.
Again, the parent's involvement.
And make a decision on how they want to handle it. Maybe I need to call the cops.
Right.
Maybe this dude who's doing the bullying is really bad. He's threatening with a gun or whatever it may be. It probably needs to have some authorities involved in it.
That's the
but
other thing.
if it's just some smack talk, whatever, then can the parents use that as an educational experience, and then maybe not make it such a big a deal? And we were just talking about this book that I'm reading right now. This guy was talking about if he had a problem, what he would do is he'd write the problem on a piece of paper and he'd put it in this basket on his desk. And then he would come back to it the following day. And what he learned from that is a lot of times the problem already fixed itself, or the next day it wasn't as big as it was when he's actually dealing with it. So he just got a little bit of time. So my point is that sometimes maybe it's not quite as big a deal as everybody thinks. So can the parent make that decision and then deal with it based on that?
I would say it's different, because sometimes, let's just talk about all the mass shootings and all of the school shootings that people didn't pick up, or suicide, where you think, wow, this person doesn't really have a problem, or you didn't make that big deal of it, or you didn't tell somebody about it, and then something really super bad happened. There's that example. So my solution would be, the first thing would be to pray for your enemy. Get that out of the way. See good things happening. See the opposite happening when you go. Just like you're saying, put that problem here, see it working out. But if it's an underlying issue that's going to escalate, you have to monitor it. So you just can't not do anything. I would think that you have to have a safe environment in the home in order for the child to feel safe enough and heard that their parent is actually going to take action. And what you also don't want to do is put that child in jeopardy. So if you do tell on another student, it escalates and then it becomes even worse. So how do you avoid that?
Well, it's all back to what we said at the beginning. The parents really got to make...
the parents have to step in. Someone's got to be the bigger person, unless you have some other dick parent that's just now fighting with the other parents, and then it becomes totally escalated, and now your house is getting toilet papered. I mean, how many times did you toilet paper a house when you were in high school?
Never.
You never did?
Mm-hmm.
We did.
Okay. Well.
That was my hood. Those were my hood friends. We toilet papered. My house got toilet papered. We toilet papered somebody else's house. I mean, that's vandalism, you know?
That's what you guys did in the hood.
That's what we did in the hood. We were surviving the hood. That's our next episode, surviving the hood.
We used toilet paper to wipe our ass.
Well, good for you, white people. We tried to mummify the neighborhood with our toilet paper.
What did we do in there? I don't know what we did to each other.
You guys just beat each other up.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
We had fist fights in the parking lot.
Fist fights in the parking lot. Oh my gosh.
Maybe toilet paper was a better
Okay,
solution.
so here's my advice to you.
Okay, we went around the block on this. We went around Jenny's block. We went around your block. We went around the white people's block. It's like, what's the solution here? Parents got to be involved.
Parents got to be involved. Do the loving thing. You cannot go wrong. Love never fails. Do the loving thing, even when it's hard. And it's hard to do the loving thing, especially in the home. You know, it's hard to say, I was wrong, or we should have done things differently, or let's bless this person, you know.
Okay, so pray, monitor the situation, be involved.
Tell somebody if you know it. I mean, you have to at least notify somebody, right? You have to go to the end and say, you know, is this going to have backlash on us, or do we just completely walk away, let them know, be anonymous, and then completely separate yourself and walk away, knowing that God's going to take care of it? You know, like, what's the right choice? You just have to, when you're in it, you just have to figure it out.
So you need to make a right choice when you're in it, without your emotions.
Yes.
We're working through a lot of stuff here to try to get to the solution.
Right. Well, here's another thing. So I was at an event. It was a television networking event, and this guy wants to do a show, and he was like, okay, you're a writer, so let's, you know, I have this idea. Would you be interested in writing it? And I usually get these interesting stories that come to me. He went to a very prominent, I'm not going to say the name, Christian school, very prominent Christian school. And he got bullied. So what they did was his whole dorm room took him out in the middle of the night. I was like, were you in a
sorority
fraternity? I'm like, was it a fraternity initiation or something? He's like, no. It was towards the end of their semester. They kidnapped him from his room. They blindfolded him. They tied him. They tied him to a pole outside, and they beat him almost to death. And then they took his blindfold off so that he can see, I think there was 8 of them that literally beat him to death, put their cigarettes out on him. It's a total bullying thing. And the one kid came back and untied him, and he said, you better leave, because if I can get up and I can chase you, I will kill you. So you better get out of here. And then there's no way he can even walk. But he told the powers that be, the dean and everyone else at this prominent school, the police, everything, and they did absolutely nothing because of what it would have done to destroy the reputation of that Christian college. So now it's 30 years later that he wants to write this story, And, you know, I'm like, ooh, we can make a really good series out of this, you know, and almost turn it into a thriller, right? Because if you've just seen Saltburn, which I don't recommend anybody seeing it, I had to actually leave the room. It was really crazy. Anyway, but it's about a kid getting revenge. Not really revenge. He was just, you know, acting out, thinking he's innocent. But anyway, my point is, he went to the authorities. He went and did the right thing, but nobody would do anything because they were such a powerful organization that nothing could be done. It's kind of like the Erin Brockovich story, right? You have this company that's leaking all these chemicals around and she had to fight. Or the windshield wiper guy who was fighting against like Ford and all these other companies because they took his IP, you know, for his windshield wipers. And then it took years and years and years until actually something had happened. So with that being said, what is the right thing to do? I mean, this guy suffered all these years trying to do the right thing, but now he has an opportunity to exploit it through film and television, which is a great outlet for him now. But for all those years, it destroyed his life, his relationships, and everything else because he thought he was doing the right thing. So at what point does it work for you?
So what's the point? I understand the story, but what's the point? What's the point you're trying to make with sharing this guy's story?
Well, and do you tell? Do you not tell? Do you keep your peace? Do you walk away? Do you just leave it to God to, you know, figure it out for you? Can you ask, pray, double for your trouble, 7 times in the substance of, you know, Satan's house to restore to you the years, the Lord being the restorer, if you can just walk away? Or if you try to do the right thing and nothing else works out, can you just detach and say, okay, I'm going to let that go? What's the best solution to do that?
Well, that becomes a choice. And like you said, this ruined this guy's life. He chose to let it ruin his life. Did what happened to him? Was it terrible? Was it bad? Absolutely. But he chose to dwell on it. How many years? 30 years?
30 years.
It's his choice. He's continuing to live in the past. What did Paul say? I didn't look at those things that are behind, but I look at those things that are ahead. If you want to live your life in the rear of your mirror, look in the rear of your mirror, you're going to continue to live through all that stuff. And even with not only your problems, another thing that I've learned with a professional athlete is that you celebrate the victories, but when that's done, it's over. You move on to the next one. Because if you continue to celebrate in that, then you're not ready for the next challenge a lot of times. And that's why sometimes you'll see like a player that will win like a Grand Slam title and they go to the next one and they bomb.
Right.
You know? And so one thing that we've talked about, you know, me and Paris before is like when you have like these great victories like that, maybe you want to take a week off.
That's my next question is how do you stay at the top?
Well,
how do you stay at the top of your game when you're on a roll?
That I think with anything in life, I mean, you're going to have your ups and downs. So, you know, how do you deal with that negative stuff? You got to put it out somehow and move on. Because if you're going to let an event run your entire life, you're defeated. So it's just like say the same thing. Well, I'm going to quit because I lost this thing. You can't. You got to learn how we already talked about how to get through the loss, how to get through the competition. We talked about that. So how do you stay on the top? It's the same way that we've talked about over and over and over. And basically what anything we talk about, whether it's business or staying in health or having good relationships, is about setting a mindset, having routines, being disciplined, being diligent, and doing the same thing over and over and over. That breeds success.
And that's a healthy mindset that you have to nurture in the womb, honestly.
And it takes all those things. It's like you can't get to the point, I made it, and then I'm not going to do those things anymore.
Right.
You still have to continue to do that. And if you listen to people who are successful in business, they have a lot of similarities. They get up early, they meditate, they pray, they read, whatever it is, whether they're religious or they're not religious, or they have time alone to pray, meditate, think, get themselves right here first, get themselves mentally and spiritually right first. And then most of the time, a lot of those people will then go and get their spiritual or their physical in check as well too, like they'll work out. So they've gone through the mental check-in, check-out. They've gone through the physical check-in, check-out before they even get to what it is that that their career is or what their tasks are, whatever that done. They've got themselves in that right position already before they started. So staying on top requires you to continue to do all those things that got you there.
Right.
It's just like
at a more intense training level because you have the underdog coming for you. Right? You always have someone coming after you.
and you have to stay on it all the time. I mean, there's something really interesting. We showed the kid that was 8 years old, the professional skater or the scooter rider. I saw another kid, he's like 3, who is amazing. And on his, what I found was really interesting on his like YouTube channel, already had on the top, no days off. The kid's 3. And his mom's like, I take him there. He's got a coach. It's like he goes for 2 hours. He's like, I have to drag him away. He doesn't want to leave. He wants to go there all the time. It's like this kid is really into it. And obviously, as a parent, you have to monitor that and keep it balanced or whatever it is that you may be. But my point is that it's like we have this pickleball like text that we're involved with all these people who are professional athletes, ex-professional athletes that are businessmen, that are all these, successful all in their own things that we play pickleball with. And that's kind of one of the common things that they even have a banner made at this place where we go and play pickleball. It's 24/7, 365, no days off, LFG. It's like, that's the mind.
Shout out to our LFG
that's
crew.
The mindset,
so
about
great.
the underground down in Fort Myers.
Yeah, in Fort Myers.
But my point is with that is that is something that these people have put. It's like, you don't change 24/7, 365. You're always on it, no days off. And it's like, do you take days off? Yeah. But I find like even my days off from exercising, I still walk 2 or 5 miles. Right. That's my day off from exercising. Go and walk, because in that state of just walking, I'm refreshing my mind, I'm recharging my batteries. It's easy for me, but I'm still getting some physical benefit out of it, but hopefully I'm doing something else with it. And why I like having my own gym is because I can listen to spiritual messages, teachings while I'm working out. So not only am I nourishing my spirit man, but I'm also taking care of my physical body. I can also take care of business. So I'm multitasking and doing a lot of different things all at one time.
Good.
So routine, discipline.
Keeping your mind in a good place, listening to positive, uplifting music, teachings. I mean, there's a plethora of things on YouTube. You can type in anything.
That's why the Bible says that faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ, the good news, the healing gospel in Christ. It doesn't say because you heard it. It doesn't say you get it because you heard it, which is once, it's plural, it's ing. So it's something you got to continue doing. Faith comes from that, from doing. And so does success. Success comes from doing, and doing those things that are within the routine, those disciplines, those mindsets, those structural things that lead to success.
Keep doing it, because you will produce fruit. You will produce fruit.
And that's why it's so important as the parents, as we identify these extraordinary gifts that our kids may have, is teaching them to how to do those principles through that. But most importantly, this is the last thing I want to end on, is being an example.
Right. That's key. That's number one. I would say be the example.
Gotta be an example. Right. That was one of the things, I never asked Paris to do something physically herself that I wasn't willing to do myself.
Right.
And that was one of my encouraging things, to work out as hard as I was and do the things I do and go take the tennis lessons, which I didn't even want to take,
right.
So I could hit with her on the road or whatever. But I did it because I loved her, but I also wanted to show her, hey, I'm willing to go and work too. I'm in this with you. You're not alone. I'm setting examples. Like, I'm going to work out, I'm going to hit, I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm going to do it. I'm doing my business too. I'm grinding it out.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I'm up before she is. When we travel on the road, I'm always up before she is. I always go to bed after she goes to bed, because I'm doing the things I need to do. So I'm setting an example. It's like, I'm not some slothful, lazy dude. It's like, I'm going to do more.
Which is why she respects you. And when you speak into her life, she respects you. So
most of the time,
you're willing to go the mile. Yeah, until they figure out, wait a minute, I have my own mind too, which is great, and it's great to have debate with your children, which is, it can be a fun time too, because it's nice to see them blossom with their own opinions. So that's always nice to see. It's like, wow, they're growing up. It's nice when, I always say, when they're off the tit, which they never really are, because you're always providing and caring for your children. Like you said, well, how long do I have to be a parent? Your whole
forever.
life.
Forever.
How long do I have to pay? Your whole life. You have to just be the parent, be the bigger one. And the greatest thing is always having her and her crew come to us. I always loved that the kids always came to our house. Like, we were always hosting or doing something, because, for me, I was spying. Like, what's going on? I was, your eyes and ears. You have to stay involved in your child's life all the way through and through.
What I just heard you say that just really clicked off to me was be the parent.
Right.
That's what you got to do. You got to be a parent. You can't be an absentee parent. You need to be a parent that's involved. I think everything we talked about, from bullying, finding the gifts, all that type of stuff, you got to be involved. You got to be the parent. So if you want extraordinary things from your child, be the parent.
Be the parent.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to be a parent, then I think I said this in one of our last episodes, then just put a cap on it. I mean, just don't even consider having children, because kids need parents. The statistics of those children that don't have parents are the ones that are in prison, jails, and things like that.
So we're interested to hear what you have to say about what we've been talking about, your comments, your success, your failures. Shares the group. Tell us where else you can find out
all the stuff
we're doing.
You can go to the Abundant Life Show. It's just Abundant Life Show, Todd Worldwide. You can get the books, Money, Mike, and the Gang. You can go on Amazon. Yep. And then I want to close with this. One of the greatest people of all time is Cesar Millan, who trains dogs. And it's usually not the dog's problem that's having the issue. It's the owner. As the parent, as the owner of that child, that animal that you are in charge of, it's your energy and what you're putting out forth is what they're reacting to. Yeah. So be at peace and be the parent.
Be the parent.
Yeah, and be the bigger one. So until then.
Peace.
Hey kids, it's Money Mike. I'm lean, I'm green, and I'm a money machine. Welcome to my new book, Money is Easy, where I branch out with glee, revealing the message, money is as easy as counting 1, 2, 3. This is my first book in the Money Mike and the Gang 4-book series, where I get together with my good friends and reveal hidden secrets in my tree leaves that pay dividends. I'll teach you 3 simple steps on how to get rich, so you can tell a friend and also help their lives to be enriched. So check out my new book and you will see that money really is easy as counting 1, 2, 3.